afternoon. This is the Bridge 99 FM. This is a public eye. I'm Ronald Thwaites, and in the Bridge Studios on Kingsway Avenue in Kingston, St. Andrew, Kingston, is the Honorable Pearnel Charles. How are you, sir?
Alive and kicking and shaking, rocking, listening to you. how are things?
I better declare, I have been struck down by the lady COVID, and I'm recovering well, but I can't be with you for fear of infecting your fair self and the others who are in close proximity. But thank you so much for these new media which allow us to join each other virtually.
Well, technology has come a far way. You know, when I was a boy, it took 4 or 5 men to carry a pie radio in my community when it was related to when we were advised that one would come in. And one day man look and say, 6 of you carrying that like, you know, in another few years, you'll be carrying it in your pocket. I say, oh, rubbish. And there it was. It's now a pen or a watch that you can communicate with radio.
Look at that. Glad to be with you, sir. And on the program today, we join once again that extraordinary group of people who are concerned with learning in Jamaica, the link between the diaspora representatives and the local education community. The Union of Alumni Associations of Jamaica tells us more about their penetration, because one of our major problems, as you know, sir, is the fact that many of our graduates from school are not as literate and numerate as they need to be. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, but telling you further on the global connection, after 1 o'clock today, Erwin Clare will join us from Yaad, and Senator Donna Scott Mottley will join us to talk about the jury system in Jamaica, a fixture in the countries of the diaspora, but perhaps going into some amount of disrepute here in Jamaica. And in the middle, Steve McDonald of Yaad Market, our friend, will regale us again as to the opportunities for local products on the Canadian and diaspora market generally, and speak about diaspora engagement. That's the purpose of the bridge. That's what we facilitate on the public eye. So, Mr. Charles, let's go back to this question of one dear to your heart, of labor, because I announced just now that we would be inviting the Union of Alumni, Jamaican Alumni Associations in the Eastern United States to tell us more about these devices that are Learnit, which are going to help us to have better high school outcomes. But this week we had some Chinese contractors. We also had the president of the Exporters Association, I think, Mr. Azar, telling us that we need to look at importing labor into Jamaica. How does that strike a veteran trade unionist like you, Mr. Charles? Isn't that a disgrace and a disappointment that 60 years after independence, we have to be thinking of importing common labor into Jamaica? How say you?
Well, you have to define labor in the first instance. We don't have enough skilled persons. You know, in other words, but if you're going to tell me you want more engineers, then go ahead. If you want more teachers, go ahead. You want more professors, go ahead. You want more supervisors, go ahead. Falling below that, then I would like to look at our workforce. What do we have on the ground? And I'm not going to jump ahead to say yes, go ahead, because I don't know what is the quality of workers they are proposing to carry back to Jamaica. Certainly, it couldn't be people who are unskilled and need just to come and assist on the ground.
Pearnel, we have 800,000 Jamaicans of working age who fall outside of the labor market. The cry that is coming is for skilled construction workers. It's also for workers, ordinary workers, unskilled, who do not have the discipline, it appears, to be productive in the way that the foreign contractors require and get from their Chinese imported workers. We have the business processing outsourcing sector and the manufacturing sector saying that they could do far more value-added production, but absent the appropriate number of stable workers. Now, sir, you look at you, big trade union leader, esteemed, correctly so, and yet you're saying if we need more engineers and we need more skilled people, bring them. Why don't we have them ourselves, sir? What is wrong with our education system? Why is it that the leaders of industry have to be saying that the Hart Trust, with its expensive $11 or $13 billion a year, needs to step up to the plate? What's wrong, do you think?
Well, I am going to be criticized as attacking a certain sector of our workforce. I believe that the management of business in Jamaica has not spent enough time in bringing into their management class certain amount of workers at a lower class. In other words, supervising and training is not a project on many of our business centers. So Hart alone can't do it. You and I sat at this very table and say, look at the construction industry. Why do we have masons, carpenters, steelmen, welders on a job, and we have hundreds of young people around, and they don't call 10 or 15 and say, listen, here is a hat, here is a shoe, that a nail will run into your foot, here is a suit, come on, we want 5 of you over there as welders, and we're going to train you. Hugh Shearer, when he was Prime Minister, made provision for those people to get an allowance to even go to work and for lunch. But that program has fallen. You can't blame the government for all of these things. You have to blame a certain sector who want to improve their skill. Not only the money is working in Jamaica. We've got to get some people to work. So we're doing well and investing money, but we are not doing well and investing in people. So that, and another point, as we create them, they leave. Why? They leave for higher earnings and better skill assistance on the job. So we have to keep training. And I am not opposed to bringing in supervisors if the program is to start managing training on the job. Because in the hotel industry, I think they are doing much better than in other parts of the industry.
But they've been complaining too. But what I hear you saying is that bring in, if in fact the purpose of bringing in is for technology transfer. Is that correct?
Training is not only taught, not only in our schools, but on-the-job training is not something that is happening in Jamaica.
Okay, but then let's
sufficiently.
Right. Let us two retired public servants suggest something, as we always do, confidently and humbly. My view is that if we say in select professions, whether it's nursing or teaching or engineering, that we can have these people coming in and on the condition that they are training local people, I'm in favor of that along with you. As far as Hart is concerned, let's go back to the Hugh Shearer model, and I speak respectfully and affectionately about him. My view is that, and I take some responsibility because I had responsibility for Hart for a period of time. We've made a mistake. Setting up all these Hart academies is not what we're to do. Give the Hart money to the business sector, to those who employ, and let them train the workers there in an apprenticeship situation. Yes. And Hart is the certifying and the supervising element, not the superstructure, not another kind of technical university. What do you think?
Ronnie, I'm gonna pat myself on the shoulder. When I became Minister of Labor and Social Security, 70% of the Jamaican workforce were not identified in any category. 70%. And Hart started a massive going around the country in all the parishes, looking and interviewing the skilled people, people who said they were skilled, and identify them and start to, bring forth a training group. I think I told you this off the air once. I sent out for welders and machinists to go to Canada, and I had an application from some people. We wanted 300. I have the picture to show you. 1,400 people came. 1,400.
Yeah.
But I say, what is this? They say, these are the people you sent for. No, I sent for 400. They said 1,400 downstairs. So we have to now print 1,500 application running. Only 634, don't forget, could sign their name.
But then, sir, hold on right there. Hold on right there, because that is your question. Yesterday, again, we had the Minister of Education, or this week, and we want to always keep our diaspora audience up to date with local news. Here's Mrs. Williams and the Vice Chancellor, the Principal at the university, saying that the emphasis from now on is going to be on tertiary education, and pointing to the fact that the lack of finance is very often an inhibiting factor in getting tertiary, going to university, going to college. But Mr. Charles, undoubtedly finance plays a factor. But the real problem that keeps our ratio of tertiary educated students and professionals low, it is because they are not being properly prepared. It is because they fall into the category more or less of those downstairs your office who could not sign their name.
Ronnie, let me tell you of something that you have. I don't know if you're going to say it. Old time days, as they would call it. Everybody wanted their picnic to be a doctor, a lawyer, or a teacher, or so. If you ever tell your parents you want to become a mason, they laugh at you. You want to become a carpenter, say, what? Mechanic came on stream somewhere along the line because you're going to be a big bus and big truck. We did not start to match this developing age. So now we have to look back and say, all right, we want carpenters who can write their names, who can add up. We want steelmen, machinists, mechanics. We have all these things. So you bring on Hart. Hart should be only producing supervisors to come and assist the workforce on the ground.
Listen,
the big companies, I hear Mr. Mahfood crying out that they don't have enough workers. How many work have they trained on their jobs? If you call in a man and say, listen, you're going to get half pay or a quarter pay for the first 6 months, and you're going to get full pay if you produce in the next 6 months, who would be unhappy to go? You're going to get lunch, you're going to get transport costs to come, and even some uniform. We have not started the job here. So therefore, if the Chinese want to bring their engineers in Jamaica and say, look, they will train some of our people on the road.
I agree.
I would not approve them coming to Jamaica with carpenters, masons, and all of that, although they can't get to do their job because we don't have the people. So what are they going to do? What are they going to do?
Well, this is it.
Stop the progress.
We have to change our way of doing things. You can't keep on promoting children in school who can't read and write and then expecting anything different at the end. Anyway, this is a good sequence then.
No, so I want to, before you go, I want you to answer one question. Who is responsible for that? Who is it that is responsible for looking ahead? Is it the private sector with their business? Is it the government with some taxes? Is it the teachers? Is it the young man in Central Kingston who don't have any way to sleep, who don't have any clothes to wear, who is barefoot and can't go up on no construction site where nail go and juke him? And who is it that must say, all right, I need 100 workers that we're going to put to work? Who is it?
I'll tell you. Clearly, it is a joint responsibility. It is the state who must set labor market policy, but it is undoubtedly that they can't do it alone. That has to be done in conjunction with the private sector and with the educational sector as well. And I'm grinding my teeth, sir, because at this stage, 60 years after our independence, and where a world recession is looming, if the World Bank is correct this week, then we shouldn't have to be discussing this. We should be sitting down at the table and finding out what the new directions are going to be, not having them come only from two retired parliamentarians. On that note, Mr. Charles, let's take a break, and when we come back, talk to Donovan and to Lesleyann, who in fact are doing, Donovan Wilson and Lesleyann Samuel, who are doing exactly what we want, making sure that the base is properly laid in education so that the higher heights can be achieved. This is a Public Eye on the Bridge 99. Thanks for being with us on the Bridge 99 FM. This is a Public Eye. I'm Ronald Thwaites. The Honorable Pearnel Charles is in the studio. He co-hosts this program, and we welcome Lesleyann Samuel. How are you?
Happy New Year to you both. So very nice to be with you. You know, I'm in Jamaica.
Well, that's where you belong. So we allow you to be absent once in a while for good purposes, but glad to have you here. Good. And is Donovan Wilson on the line yet?
I don't know.
Doesn't appear to be. All right. We'll take him when he comes. Lesleyann, immediate past president of the Union of Jamaican Alumni Associations and co-chair of the Learnit Tablet Program Committee. Last week, we spoke to two of your colleagues about the Learnit Tablets in School program. Now you're here for the distribution of the tablets. Tell us what you're going to be doing. Tell us the significance.
So we are so very excited to be here. So I so very much appreciate you all giving us yet another opportunity to chat with you. And then we can talk again next week and tell you how it went.
Real Jamaican woman, huh?
Yeah, right? So we actually came in yesterday to get ready. But today, I don't know if we talked about this very much last week, but one of the things that we started, I think, back in 2020 maybe, we started something we call an adopt a primary school program. We're calling it a pilot at this point, while we kind of really try to figure out all of the things that we want to do with it. But what we were encouraging our alumni associations to do is to work with their schools, their high schools in particular, to adopt a primary school that is a major feeder school for their schools. We know that, you know, the attendance and distribution of how students attend various schools is a little different than perhaps it was when I was going to high school. But the point was that all about, once again, focusing on the primary schools and trying to encourage the connection with education, and with the high school that they could conceivably aspire to go to, and to start to build those relationships earlier, as opposed to not having them at all. So as a part of this program, 4 of our alumni associations and their schools adopted a primary school. And those associations are York Castle in St. Anne, and they adopted Brownstone Primary. Knox College in Clarendon adopted Spalding Primary. Immaculate, of course, adopted Central Branch in Kingston. And Woolmer's Boys and Girls adopted St. Jude's Primary, also in Kingston. So we start our Learnit tablet distribution to those 4 primary schools today at a little program that we're having at the JTA this afternoon. So we are very excited about this.
I am going to disturb you by begging you personally to make sure that these schools police the tablets that are being given to the workers. Because we have some people in Jamaica, you know, you believe that and not right? They will take the tablet and change it into what they want. So please see that there's a supervision that police it and manage it so that it can keep along what Ronnie Thwaites and myself and the Bridge would like to see
Yes.
this program fly high.
Yes.
But Leslie,
Yes.
these tablets are pre-programmed, aren't they?
They are pre-programmed, but they are tablets, so they can be used, as tablets. You can add additional programs to them if you would like. And they are the property. They will become the property of the schools. They are not the property of the students ever.
That is very good.
Okay. And so I do hear you though, Mr. Charles. We are very concerned about that and certainly plan to ask the schools to please secure them. And they have to be secured each day. So it has to become a very deliberate and consistent act that when they are finished with it, that somebody owns putting them away, so that they can be available the next day.
Sure.
The reason that I use the word policing is because some of us, not all, I mean, we don't have a bad name, but we're bright, although you think we don't have education. And you'll be surprised to know how well we can take a telephone and change it into what we want. So provided it's the masters in school that are going to supervise it, manage it, inspect it, let's go right ahead.
How can we help you advance the Adopt a Primary School program, Lesleyann? Because that's really very important. If the high schools pay more attention to the quality and attainment, the social aptitude of the students coming in, then you don't have that real fallback that takes place in grade 7 and grade 8, eh?
Right, that's the idea. So, with so far, the response from both the primary schools and the high schools has been very positive. But, we purposely called it a pilot because, part of the concern was what exactly is the expectation between the primary schools and the high schools, and certainly the alumni associations. So we are still trying to work through some of that. But, we have 4 very committed schools and alumni associations who are part of this pilot. So far, it has been going extraordinarily well. But, what we would like to see is, all of our 60-odd associations, actually is not 60-odd high schools, I think is something like 45 or something like that, are actually high schools associations, that we can encourage more of them to do what these 4 have done.
Sure.
With some guidance.
Yes, I think too, at some stage I would urge you to reach out to a group called the Ecumenical Education Commission, which is an alliance of the churches that sponsor schools in Jamaica, because they have connections with or ownership of a large number of high schools, and in my view, they should willingly coordinate with you to ensure that the primary schools that are their feeder schools are immediately connected to this, and it might be a portal too for the expansion of the Learnit kids, wouldn't they?
Right, I would hope so. That's the one thing that we were very focused. We are volunteers, Dr. Thwaites. There's only so much we can take on all at once. But we were very focused on getting this launched and getting them to the schools and getting them to start using them. Sure. And certainly, one of the things that actually we worked with the Learnit team to ensure was that each device has an assessment tool built in, if you will, so that it's a little bit easier for the schools to track how the students are doing.
No, you need to, they need to have done what Lesleyann is saying, because you need a proof of concept, which is then now becomes attractive for investment, eh? And that's what I think what we're after.
Exactly.
Sorry, Mr. Charles, you were saying.
Yes. So with that assessment, we are hoping then to be able in the next 6 months or so start to get some preliminary data that supports what we have seen happen with this Learnit tablet when they are when they are in these schools, because then we can create the story that hopefully will help others to see the value in joining us in this initiative. Evelyn mentioned, or maybe we discussed last week, there are about 750, 800, somewhere in there, primary schools in Jamaica. All right. We have probably hit the first 50 at this point. All right. So we have a little ways to go. But, I am very, very optimistic. Mr. Thwaites, you know me. When I have ideas, I don't let them go.
Well, I'd like to disturb you to tell you, I was not in you and Ronnie's class. I don't mean ABC class, no, right? But I am probably one of the most excited person when I look back to my days of small slate, then big slate, then you have to read 6th class to get exercise book and pencil, and now you're getting what? Tablets?
Tablets.
No, so look at it. There's a master situation moving in the educational development capacity of our country. And this is why I'm so concerned and I'm so excited to see a child going to school and don't have to have one exercise book for every class, but I have one tablet that can cover so many things. Very good.
So many things.
Lesleyann, we want to be allies with you in this venture because it's a diaspora connection, because it is an educational trust, and because Jamaica so needs this kind of connection. In the future, where does UJAA see itself going? What can we look forward to as we part today? How can we continue to promote your ventures?
So quite frankly, Mr. Thwaites, we need to be a little bit more regular on your program, okay? But this week we are giving out 180 tablets, okay? So, over the next 3 days, we'll be collecting videos and pictures, and we certainly want to share them with you. We want to share them with the media community as a whole. But
you need sponsors.
Yes, I need sponsors. And that is kind of why I wasn't joking when I suggested that we come back next week. Because I really want to say, listen, we said it was going to happen. It happened. And this has been the initial response, because by then we will also have had the initial orientation for the 18 schools that we are distributing tablets to this week. So they will be on their way, to changing the dynamics in their schools. It will be a new day. In each of those.
Dynamic development of education. Very good word.
I like that.
It's a national security
initiative.
Importance. Of course it is. If you teach your children properly, if the tablets can help in this regard, they're not going to take on deviant behavior and become criminals as easily. Come on, Mr. Charles. Let us become evangelists for this movement. Lesleyann Samuel of UJAA, thank you so much. We're always at your disposal. Hope you do well this week. Keep us in touch.
Thank you so very much. Appreciate you allowing me to be here. Talk soon. All right.
Okay.
Lesleyann Samuel, past president of the Union of Jamaican Alumni Association, a voluntary organization, Pearnel, over 40 or 60 schools, primary high schools in Eastern Seaboard and elsewhere. I'm encouraging all our diaspora audience, rope in and check in with your school's association. If you don't have one, make sure you form one. It only takes two or three to start. When we come back, Steve McDonald from Yaad Market in Toronto, on the public eye, on the bridge. Soon come. Thanks for being with us on the Bridge 99 FM. This is the Public Eye with Pearnel, Charles, and myself. And welcome to Steve McDonald of Yaad Market in Toronto. Hi, man.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Good afternoon and Happy New Year to you and the team.
Yes,
thank you very much. Listen to me. Before we get to talk diaspora business fully in a short interview, Pearnel, I have to tell you, Steve sent me some pictures of a Grace product, coconut oil, and guess where it's made?
Costa Rica.
Made in Sri Lanka, halfway across the world, Mr. Charles.
Farther. and one time you couldn't get coconut oil unless it was done in Jamaica.
Yes, sir. Remember. And we have billions of dollars put on, sir, in the coconut industry board that was supposed to re-stimulate the industry. We have research going on. They're one of the finest organizations to prevent us falling prey to some of the diseases which have crippled us. And we unfortunately, not blaming the company, but we unfortunately have to label a Jamaican product and tell the truth that it is not our product born and grown here and processed here, but rather in Sri Lanka. No wonder we're poor, sir. No wonder that people take step with us and say we have to import people from outside if we really want any good to come from Jamaica.
Ronnie, before you go on, I'm going to defend the coconut board. They have tried. They have distributed thousands of coconut seedlings all over Jamaica. We are hit with a serious thing in Jamaica for our coconut. In St. Thomas, thousands of coconut trees are dying or have died. One man, one person.
Put Mr. Black in charge of the coconut industry then, sir. Make him do what everybody, what we do. Steve McDonald, we'll take up your time.
I don't know, I don't know, Ronnie. I was telling the truth. Mr. Black must be given a national recognition because he has a way. He walks his coconut walk, I understand, because I was in a coconut. I had 500, they all died, and I couldn't control it. What happened is this. He is able to take down that coconut tree whenever he smells, whenever he sees, whatever he is doing to recognize that one leaf has a lethal yellowing, and he's able to take it down and replace it. We need, in other words, we have somebody in Jamaica who can do it. We have the education. We have the seedlings being distributed, and they don't even come out early before they die. So we need to work on it.
You're listening to this. What do you think?
If my opinion, if one person can do it, then it surely can be replicated. And if other countries are able to do it, then I don't see why we can't do it. No, I must confess that I don't know enough about the disease which is affecting the coconut. But I would think that why is it not affecting other countries? And is there another type of variant which is more resilient to the disease?
They have tried that too. We have tried another type of coconut, and it has gone just like the banana.
We would like science. So, not to pause on that too much, but it's just to indicate this is we have to confront those dragons instead of submitting to them. Steve McDonald, diaspora engagement is the theme for this year. We want to connect with those persons like yourself who are devoted to the linkage between where your second country and your native country. How can we as a nation, our government, our media, our business folk, ordinary people, how can we advance the process of diaspora integration?
Good question, and I applaud you guys for that. There was a discussion about 3 years ago when the Honorable Juliet Holness came to Toronto, and she had a somewhat almost like a town hall meeting, and a group of minds were there, and different type of speeches. When it came to question and answer time, my contribution that I made that one way to strengthen that diaspora engagement is to try and strengthen the people who are in the diaspora. Because when we are stronger as in the diaspora, then we'll be much better able to help back and contribute to our homeland. Now, and I'm also going to go back to a meeting that the Most Honorable Portia Simpson Miller, when she came up here, she came to the Jamaican Canadian Association and gave a speech. I stood in the parking lot and for a few minutes before the start of the meeting, and I saw a lot of Benz and Bimmer coming in. The amount of Benz and Bimmer, I lost track of the count. And I coined a phrase that we're individually rich and we're collectively poor. And what I mean by that is that in the diaspora, we don't have a lot of engagement in terms of a group. As a group, we're very poor in terms of community involvement and what we have. Yes, the Jamaican Canadian Association, they do a small amount, but we don't function together as a group collectively. So you will have, within the diaspora, you will have a lot of standouts, or a few standouts to be more precise. You will have your Michael Lee Chin, who's was, I think still is, a Canadian billionaire. And you would have Raymond Chang when he was alive, may he rest in peace. And then you would have your West Hall. And you may have a few other individuals who are wealthy. But from a group perspective, we really don't have much. It was just recently that Mr. Jolly, who assisted in paying off the Canadian Association building mortgage. So we don't have a lot. And when I look at the Indians, Indians and Chinese, they own a lot more businesses and they own a lot more companies than we do. And I think part of it is their approach in terms of how they approach their business as a community. So even though they may have a franchise like a McDonald's franchise, you would have like 10 people who own it. They start out, they would buy houses together, they do businesses together, but we don't operate in that communal way. We more operate in an individual way. So from that perspective, it definitely takes us a lot longer as a group to create wealth. So I think we definitely need to take a different approach in terms of how we're doing things, even though we may have, or we have had individuals who are by themselves wealthier. It hasn't contributed to the group. And I've seen whereby in the Indian community, when there's a new immigrant who come in, they would ask them, okay, what is it that you're interested to do? And let's just use an example. They want to drive a truck, and they say, okay, you're a truck driver. Do you want to own a truck or do you want to drive the truck? And this is done through their mosque. If they want to own a truck, they will facilitate and give them the money via a loan for them to have that truck. But they will say, okay, you're going to buy your truck tires, your everything from this person. So they keep the money within that community. And I think the Jewish people, they did something similar. So
but
from that
perspective, don't have that culture, Steve.
Then that's the problem in terms of from that perspective. And that's where we need, from a diaspora engagement perspective, we need to create more of that communal thing. From the meeting with Juliet Holness, a lot of people were saying that they don't have ways to connect with other Jamaicans, like tradespeople and so forth. So I thought about it, and moving off the Yaad Market platform, I created what was called Yaad Links. And between Ontario and Yaad Links. And that's where professionals, tradespeople can go on and put what services they offer and also put their nationality. So it's a community notice board. So you can then go on and say, okay, I'm looking for a plumber. You put that in and you find a plumber who hopefully is within your area.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, well, and that's an advance. That really is good.
Right.
Time is short on us. But Pearnel, what do you think? What do you think about that? That sounds like a major step forward.
I am a little concerned as to whether people from other countries are closer in terms of where they are. Are we separated? Are we just all over the place? Or we are in particular communities that we can wake up and go to this supermarket, to this restaurant, call it a name. Steve, I don't know how close you are in terms of population in Canada. We know one or two of you are there, but how many else are around that can form a commune? How many?
Yes and no. In some areas we're close, and in some areas we're not. And that's the reason why I had created the Yaad links in terms of to help connect the people who are not close or who don't know even that they're close. Because you may have a situation where in my neighborhood, you may have a plumber, you just don't know. So a lot of what is happening right now is someone will go to a barber shop and then ask the barber, okay, who is there? One of the things that we have in the West Indian stores, you will have someone who will leave their flyers, leave their card, business cards, and so forth. But I think the emphasis, though, is that in terms of diaspora engagement, we need to speak to us supporting each other more from a business perspective and in that regard, so that we can all help each other and to grow, and then we can give back a lot more to back home.
This has to be a continuing theme of concern and discussion during 2023. And I'm glad that you have advanced at least one measure that can help in this regard. Congratulations once again. Steve, this is chapter 1. There'll be much more. Thanks for today. Join us again on the bridge. This is the Public Eye. We soon come back.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
The Honorable Pearnel Charles, OJ, our co-host, I'm Ronald Thwaites, and we're joining for the Global Connection Hour with Erwin Clare of Ira Jam in New York. Erwin, greetings.
Greetings. And I must tell you that the physical bridge itself has landed me here in the studios, and I came here looking forward to seeing you, just to find out that you have decided to stay home.
Ronnie, I just wanted to tell you that I also have got a call for somebody for you to answer 2 questions. One, is certification of workmen continuing? When you were in the ministry, it was going fast. I did some at the ministry. The other one is, are we prepared to advise and invite the government of Jamaica to join the program that we have just spoke about, the tablet program? And Erwin is here now, and he is going to say he will carry it overseas, and we'll work on it out here.
Remember,
and it will be a greater program.
Remember, it's overseas. It started. But first, gentlemen, let me just acknowledge our listeners in New York, tri-state area, Ira Jam 93.5 of this part of the global link, where physically I am in Jamaica, but the work must continue. We must continue to ensure that the platform that we designated, the link, the bridge to the diaspora, continues here in 2023, and we'll be doing so in a robust manner. So I just want to say to our listeners, we trust that you continue to do what you do on a daily basis to ensure that your community is positioned, because when we do that in the benefit of our children. So we have a lot of work for 2023, Ronnie, and I heard the last guest spoke about we're littleness, plentiful in our littleness, but we're collectively poor. And that is so true. And that is something that we must continue to find ways how we can strengthen the diaspora. And that is by, community groups coming together and recognizing that the same wheel that we create, we can carry more load on it.
That diaspora link, a Yaad link that Steve McDonald spoke of, is a very useful advance. And just as he's done between producers of Jamaican produce and measuring their availability and opportunity to export,
yes,
if it can be done for other goods and for all services, I think it's something that within your tri-state area, Erwin, you would like to consider also.
Yeah, and there are groups doing similar situation, Ronnie, and I think that's where the plentiness comes in. That's where the plentiness comes in, and whether or not we are connecting the dots to ensure that we're doing so in such a manner that it can be effectively leveraged. Because that's, at the end of the day, we must find efficiencies in everything that we do in order to deliver the kind of services that our people expect of us.
Well, you see, once the diaspora, Canada, United States, and United Kingdom, once you guys are able to get it together as an organization, rather than America sending, England sending, Canada sending, once we can do what Steve was asked, and if we can put that richness
to
a togetherness, it will be big stuff for us.
Indeed, and that's where the whole diaspora, the whole global diaspora mission. And gentlemen, I think that on our next program we should try and get the minister charged with the whole diaspora, because the whole diaspora right now, gentlemen, are going through nominations and elections, and I think there's need for some senior leadership out of Jamaica here to discuss what is really taking place.
Who is the minister in charge? I don't know who's the minister in charge of diaspora.
Mr. Campbell, Leslie Campbell, if my memory serves.
Leslie Campbell.
Yes.
Okay. He's a good
Leslie
person.
Campbell is the minister in
The Minister of Foreign Affairs and
I'm
Foreign
glad.
Affairs.
Foreign
But
Affairs.
Can I throw words before we take our guests?
Yeah.
Or when you're going to lead us on this?
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to the day when we have a coordinated financial system where the people in the diaspora will find it to their advantage, as well as to the nation's advantage, to save their money in the Jamaican financial institution. Now, Victoria Mutual and Jamaica National have done elements of this for a long, long while.
Correct.
But can you imagine a person of Israeli, a Jewish connection, perhaps Israeli affectation, who doesn't save their money in a Jewish bank?
Yeah, not good for them.
And there are many other nationalities that do that.
Indeed.
We offer a better interest rate. Our financial security is well protected and can be better, even buttressed, belt and braces. But in terms of the aggregation of capital,
Yes.
Domestic capital, albeit emerging from an external source,
Yes.
it strikes me that this is a thing I would love to see continuing seminars through the university with people like yourself, the government agencies, the financial regulators, Bank of Jamaica, as well as putting it to the people of this country, to facilitating financial transactions. We're well on the way, but we could go so much more.
You know, and that is that one of the things you'll hear, and I think there are many people who are ready to bank in Jamaica. But I think we need to get our system out here a little more user-friendly. And by that I'm saying is that you get the feeling, I'm speaking from experience, that you access certain bank services out here, it's as if that somehow you are obligated to come to this bank to make this transaction. Why do I say that? I spend the whole day there. You know, and many a times some of the services offered, and let me tell you, Jamaican banks, USA banks have nothing over Jamaican banks except customer service, Ronnie and Pearnel, Charles. I think that's something, it has to be done better. I mean, the amount of people power, people work hours being lost, people in banks today. And I hear people tell them make appointments. You do make appointments in the same situation. We need to step up the game there. But as you said,
but let me ask you, with technology where it is today, why are we waiting on somebody to come and open a bank account and to say how much you have to do? It's just a press a button.
Well, maybe this is what needs to help to clear up too. But I understand we have a guest on, Ronnie and Mr. Charles, and we're going to go to that person. I thought it was necessary because we had interviewed him before, Ronnie and Pearnel, and he had indicated that his group was readying themselves to come to Jamaica. And who is this person? Dr. Roy Street, head of the Organization of International Development, who have brought medical missions to Jamaica for a whole lot of years. He's on his he and his team are on his way here to Jamaica next week, and we just want to get an update from him as to what he'll be doing. I know that one of the parishes he'll be going to, Ronnie and Pearnel, will be Hanover. Dr. Street?
Yes, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Charles.
Dr. Street, I am very jealous, you know. I'm jealous about Erwin Clear, you, and all of you diaspora people, because if Ronnie, all I can hear is Hanover, Westmoreland, and
St. Elizabeth, man. Clarendon. We hear a lot about Clarendon. Come on now.
No, I don't hear anything about St. Thomas.
At St. Thomas, it's getting there. It's getting there. But Dr. Street, your mission starts next week. Share with us what OID will be doing here in Jamaica next week, sir.
We are actually providing medical and dental services and rehab services across the island. And also we have a team that's going into the university hospital to do open heart surgery and gynecological services at the University of the West Indies.
Wow.
But we'll be in the parishes of actually Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Hanover, and St. Catherine, actually. Yes.
So what's the size of the team you're bringing down this time?
Between our local partners and ourselves, it's about 50 of us.
Wow. And you're not just coming with your long hands up, you're coming out with stuff. Talk to us about that aspect of it.
And the long hands, yeah. We travel with all our medicines, our equipment, all the supplies that we need. We're taking that with us. We're taking them with us to treat the people. Yeah.
And in case you don't know, the most important thing they're carrying with them is their head.
Well, that too.
Because that they are the skill.
Yes.
And are the professionals.
Yes.
That Jamaica needs.
And let's also understand too, many are taking their vacation and time off from their jobs to do this. So it's a labor of love. Learnit, this is what we talk about, the whole situation, how we bring our skill sets into situations where there's a need. And this is exactly what OID is doing now.
I think it's to be commended. I think that it fits alongside several other groups. To hear of some 60 professionals locally and visiting is really very exciting. I long for the day when we can have a health system where we don't so depend on the generosity of our friends abroad, but that is to come. In the meanwhile, people need care, and let's give thanks for them and ask Doctor, how is it that we can help to facilitate their mission being fully effective?
Well, we have our local partners, for example, at Northern Caribbean University. We are working with the facility there and the administration. They have a nursing school, they have a dental hygiene school. The students will be working with us, and our local partners in Jamaica, for example, also at the university hospitals, people like Dr. Stevens, who is the cardiothoracic surgeon there that working with our team. So these folks are on the ground, we have to be, we are working closely with them. So we are getting, and I have to commend the National Health Fund also. They are providing transport for us. So we do have a lot of local support.
And what's good about this is that when we speak of diaspora engagement and partnership, this is exactly what we're talking about, because it's not just about OID coming down and doing their stuff. They're working with persons here on the ground. So we're sharing skill sets, we're sharing experiences. And so this is a win-win situation. So it's not about just coming and doing your stuff and leave, but coming and doing your stuff with persons here on the ground and leaving behind, hopefully, experiences that can engender services beyond their presence here.
Well, I just want to congratulate some of these professionals overseas when I heard that somebody who got very ill in Jamaica was being sent abroad, and that they were being received by a professional in the diaspora, in the hospital. I mean, that is another leg of connection that we should engage.
Indeed. So, Dr. Street, just want to say thank you very much, along with your team, for your services to Jamaica and by extension the Caribbean and elsewhere in Africa, for all the work that you've been doing over these years. And ladies and gentlemen, in order for these folks to come here, they did a whole lot of fundraising back in New York. Sometimes I see Dr. Street number pop up on my phone and I just ignore it because I know it's like I forgot to send my contribution.
That's excellent. And I applaud the contribution of the church, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, with such a venture. Other churches who have overseas connections and have local facilities ought to step up to that plate too. Unfortunately, the promise made that we are going to have a first-rate localized health service has not been materialized, and under present circumstances, it's not going to. And therefore, we need this assistance that we are getting.
Indeed.
Blessing to them.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Dr. Street. We're going to take a break here. Sure. On the public eye with Thwaites, Pearnel Charles Sr. My name is Irvin Clare. I'm in the studio here in Jamaica, but it's part of the Bridge Connection. And we're going to take a commercial break. We'll be right back.
This is the public eye. I'm Ronald Thwaites. The Honorable Pearnel Charles is my co-host, and Irwin Clare of Irie Jam Radio, a sister station in New York, is in the studio in Kingston too, as we welcome Senator Donna Scott Mottley. Hello, Donna, and Happy New Year.
Hi, Ronnie. What a group of distinguished men I'm meeting with today. Hi, Erwin. Hi, Pearnel.
Hello, Senator.
Hi, Donna. How are you doing?
I'm great, thanks. All the very best to you.
And please give my regards to you, my friend, my
Well,
schoolmates.
he's now most honorable in Barbados.
Oh, yes?
Tell you.
Okay.
Only in Barbados.
Okay.
Congratulations. No,
My schoolmate.
we prize CARICOM. And we are ersatz federalists, so it counts here as well as here. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Donna Scott, you were the opposition spokesperson for justice, and your comments recently on the pop down of the jury system excited our attention. Juries, Erwin Clare will tell you, are I don't want to say a dime a dozen, but are readily convened in the United States. Why is it that we have a problem empaneling a jury here in Jamaica, to the point where you have as eminent and thoughtful and just a person as the Chief Justice of Jamaica suggesting that we should abandon the jury trials? You tell us.
Well, let me say first that when we have a problem, we must identify what the problem is before we arrive at a solution. And part of the difficulty that I have is how quickly it is that we want to dismiss jury trials, because, as they say, jurors don't turn up.
Yes.
Jurors don't turn up because, for one, they have no idea of the importance or significance of their participation in the system. That's the first thing. The second thing is that as we have progressed, it has become nigh impossible for persons to do the level of voluntary service that they used to do. It's just simply too expensive. Now, Ronnie, as you know, when I entered practice, I spent a lot of time in the criminal courts and would get up with delight when I had a trial. At that time, not only was it more reasonable, the expenses more reasonable, but we had instilled in us the responsibility of civic duty. So jurors are not coming because they can't afford to, because they don't know that they need to, and invariably because the facilities that they're exposed to when they come to sit are just not up to par.
Mm.
Go ahead.
I would imagine too, with the state of lawlessness, some would say, crime and violence, that there's also a fear factor.
There is more than that.
Right.
And that, Ronnie, I want to join with you, Erwin. I think that the biggest problem we have in Jamaica today is to get somebody from a community to be a jury, and the cousin or uncle or father of somebody from another community, and the people know that person. And whether you like it or not, the fear factor, right? The sell-out and buy-out factor. I mean, whether you like it or not, people are going to jury. This is one person who will tell you, I am backing the Chief Justice. I believe that when a judge is trained, the lawyers are trained, and presenters are made there, I think that the judge, it should stay at that level right now because of the factors I say, fear factor, sell-out factor, buy-out factor, and people, you don't take the lawyer to go and try to buy out, the cousin of somebody who here say, you are going to be a jury on my uncle. It is contaminated right now, as far as I'm concerned. I prefer that trained lawyers, trained judges who can sit back independently and listen to it. I'm happy with that right now. Ronnie,
you're not going to get the support of persons who practice at the defense bar for that proposition.
Why?
It is felt, and I'm going to explain it to you.
Yes.
It is felt that in such serious matters, the best approach is to have a jury. Now let us look at how the juries are selected randomly. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing. When they step into the courtroom and they are empaneled, they have the opportunity to select a leader amongst themselves.
Yeah.
They have to confer on their decisions, and they have to have a majority verdict. That is, in fact, a plank of democracy, democratic conduct in our society, which we should encourage. Once we start eroding that participation and the rights of persons to participate and the right of the accused to be judged by a jury of his peers, we are, in fact, contributing to they are trampling on democracy. Let me say this. Confidence? I agree with you that there are risks that anybody runs when they sit on a jury. Yet, if you speak to jurors, that is not the reason that they are articulating as to why they are hesitant. In fact, I can tell you that what a lot of persons try to do to just avoid it because it takes up too much time. They can't afford to come to court every day, and it's inconvenient. Remember that persons are impaneled. They turn up to court. On the opening day of circuit, they are told when to return. And sometimes they return for days upon days upon days without having any work to do. That leads to a lot of frustration. But I don't think the solution is to eliminate jury trials. I think that we need to get to the reasons why jurors don't turn up. They had the same level of fear when I was in the criminal courts every day. There was still a possibility of selling out. There was still a possibility of being bribed. In fact, I did a murder case in which the four person who was a woman attempted to bribe the mother of the accused by agreeing that he would be released, found innocent, if she got a certain amount of money. So it's all sex.
Is this a lack of confidence in the judge? And Thwaites is one of the persons who sit beside me and nail it in my head that a judge who is trained at the bar for years and listen to the presentation of another attorney through another person should be, in my opinion, he didn't say this, in my opinion, draw a more legal, and I use the word legal because I'm sticking with judges, conclusion than somebody who is picked up and told, listen to us here and then come and tell us what you think about it because I'm a peer. I'm not doing that.
A judge gives a legal submission. I don't agree that we should abolish jury trials at all. I believe that we've been eroding them over the years, and I believe that what Western jurisprudence has fought for 1,000 years, which is a trial by your peers. We should not in Jamaica. It is part of a trend that I find, which is narrowing the access to justice and is reducing without sufficient cause the ordinary rights of the individual citizen. That is so clearly going on right now that it worries me. I relate it. I'm going to stray a little bit and be sharp, but that is why I'm Senator Scott Mottley. Be very careful about this constitutional committee that you're being asked to be part of, because the Minister of Legal Affairs has already said that in her view the Charter of Rights it needs to be reviewed. The Charter of Rights does not need to be reviewed. The Charter of Rights is the pearl of Jamaican legislation and jurisprudence. Anytime you fool around that and the opposition gets involved with however tacitly as being associated with that, I go on.
The Charter of Rights comes out of the review of something. But am I correct, Ronnie? The Charter of Rights.
Well, the Charter of Rights is probably the most recently enacted section of the Constitution.
And it's a review of the Constitution that present the Charter of Rights. Does that mean that the Charter of Rights cannot be looked at all?
I'm not saying, my view is not that it should not be looked at, but it ought to be looked at to strengthen people's rights. Now, my own concern is that when the minister was Attorney General, she expressed the view openly that people would have to have their rights infringed and abrogated. And that is what makes me approach this exercise with caution.
Right. But folks, you see, and I know that this aspect of the discussion is very important at going back to the rights of the individual. But the subject here is about the jury system, and a jury of your peers is very important. I just went through serving jury duty in New York recently, and it was my last chance now because I was putting it off. There are punitive actions taken against you if you do not show up for jury duty. There are certain federal benefits that can be taken from you if you do not show up for jury duty. So in other words, persons recognizing, yes, it's your civic duty, but there are penalties that will be affected to you if you do not serve.
Are they paid?
Yes, they are paid a minimum, $40 a day.
Okay.
But your job is secured. You cannot be penalized from your job.
Okay.
All right? I don't know what the circumstances here in Jamaica, but I do believe that we have to start putting in place mitigating factors to ensure that that aspect of our existence and human rights is protected, because I can see it now, believe it or not. Judges, let's just say, and I'm coming from my community, removing a jury system and leaving it to the judges, especially people of color, and I speak from the United States perspective, already being at the lower totem end of the justice system, be further pushed down. So I do believe that we have to find ways to preserve the jury system.
And Irwin, you raise a very important point. And I would like Pearnel to consider that fear is not one of the factors that would inhibit a person's participation as a juror.
In Jamaica?
The jury system is so entrenched in the United States that people don't hesitate because they feel that they're going to be victimized or they're going to be injured. So what we need to do here in Jamaica is try to change the culture and the attitude of the citizens.
Now, are you telling me that I should be comfortable knowing that a gang leader is being tried and a lot of gang men are out there, knowing that I am a member of the jury and I am going in there to say him is guilty and come back out comfortable?
Well, the evidence
I'm
is
not going to be.
In the Klansman gang cases where it was a jury trial, no juror has been hurt and no juror has been injured.
I'm not
and
suggesting
persons
that.
have been convicted. so your argument is not supported by the facts.
I'm talking that there's the fear factor does not necessarily mean it happens every day. But I'm telling you, I hear people say them do not going to no judge because they don't want nobody come to them yard, lawyer friend, prisoner friend.
But let me ask this, it goes back again too, and I know that some people say that I'm a bleeding heart liberal to make this statement. But the whole idea of going back to our civics and our responsibility as a nation, as a people to our country, this is a fundamental part of our existence. And for persons to just callously not believe that their rights should be protected through this round. And I can understand the frustration in the justice system, because I imagine many court cases are being put off because there's not sufficient jury. Am I correct, Senator Mottley?
Yes, that is so.
So I can understand how the angst for persons to make decisions.
I was privileged to be freed in a serious case.
Because no jury?
Huh?
Because no jury?
Because the jury.
So we should have asked the judge then to make a decision.
No, look here. Let me just say this to you.
Yeah.
Ronnie is an attorney. Ronnie can guide us. So is our guest. The judge always make a presentation to the jury to explain almost everything other than guilty, and you say whether it's guilty or not guilty. So I'm not suggesting that, but I am telling you that the fear factor, the money factor, the family factor in Jamaica, we have to go and retrain the present that we have here. As people are not going to show up, right? And then Donna has just put it. People come 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, and people sit down and watch them. You're crazy.
But you know,
Pearnel, we cannot perpetuate that approach to nation building. We have to change that. We cannot tell people that they should be fearful of doing their duty. The policeman could equally be fearful of doing his duty.
Is
the nurse, everybody is under the same threat. But how you change a society, how you transform the attitudes is by being bold and courageous, and by persons in prominent positions, encouraging persons to participate. That's the only way that you do that.
And setting the example too, and setting the example too.
Setting an example.
Of participation.
So let me say this, tell you one last point about what I think is part of the challenge that we have with getting persons to come on jury duty. That the stipend was raised from $500 to $2,000 in 2015. There has been no review since then. But importantly, Ronnie, Pearnel, Irwin, when you turn up hoping to be selected or doing your duty and presenting yourself, you don't get compensated for any of your expenses.
Okay.
So you might be traveling 4 and 5 times during a circuit term, which is approximately 3 weeks, and spending money to get there, spending money for refreshments, but you have no hope of getting any kind of contribution towards your expenses.
I'll
You
back
have to be
you on that.
participating in a trial in order to get that stipend.
I'll
And
back
that's
you.
something we need to look at.
Donna, I will
Also,
back
after
you on
the
that.
trial, you get money.
Go to the
More
Senate,
money.
and I will back you on that, because once you hand a person a document say you are expected to come to the jury, that person should start to get paid from the first morning they start to come, whether they are selected or not. Once they reply to an invitation, then you should take care of them. As a union man, I'll sit at that table.
I'm not saying it should be the same amount as somebody who sits.
No,
But
I agree.
do
I
think
agree
that
with that.
consideration has to be given to that.
You're a negotiator.
Let me
Yes.
ask this, Ronnie, a quick question. The folks who are excluded from a jury pool, because I sometimes hear the argument that some people don't serve, and when I say that some people, I know what they're saying. Certain people who are in different classes don't serve on jury duty. Who are exempted from jury duty here in Jamaica? Technically
Help me
speaking.
down, teachers, health personnel, attorneys, many religious leaders, and a host of others who may not be excluded, but who find ways of excluding themselves.
Right.
Well, there is a schedule.
Yes.
There is actually a schedule which tells you who is excluded. And Erwin, what
yes.
happened? Other persons might apply.
Right.
If they're served, they might apply to be excluded on various grounds.
Right. But and the reason I say that, is that, again, if we are to begin to encourage and to get back to the whole importance of one's civic duty, many times people look to see what others are doing, and sometimes they not know that they do have legitimate reasons why that person doesn't serve. But it doesn't bode well for the whole attracting people to serve on the jury duty. So the education piece, Senator Mottley, is very important. I think we have to get back to don't jump street on that.
I agree with you, but every time I sit on a joint select committee or we pass new legislation, one of the things that is promised to us is a public education program, which never happens or rarely happens. So my thought was that justices of the peace, Minister Chuck has been appointing and expanding that pool. And so what we should do is utilize the justices of the peace so that they can educate persons in the community about their responsibility and what it means to be a juror. I can tell you that there are people who have done jury duty who have said it's the best experience that they have had in their life, going through listening for days to the evidence and coming to a conclusion, guided by the judge, of course, on matters of law.
I think that's a very important suggestion, and it gives substance to the work of or to the role of the justices of the peace. And it's not going to cost anything, or very much, if anything. So why not do that now? I hope your suggestion will be taken. I think before this interview ends, though, we need to apprehend one other aspect. The postponement of trials, whether because jurors are absent or for any other reason. is creating a real situation of injustice now. Trial dates are being set 3 years in advance, and the Senator, this is unacceptable. What are we going to do about that?
Well, before
the,
we close,
the majority of cases which come before the circuit court are triable by jury.
Before we close,
I have had cases put off from last year to September this year.
Because
it is one thing if the person is on bail. It is an extremely different thing if the person is in custody.
And these cases
we
are
have
putting
to
off
give consideration to it.
Your cases are putting off because you cannot panel a jury.
There are many different reasons because we are discussing the issue of juries who have raised that specific matter because the DPP was very open and very frank with some of the challenges which they have been experiencing, where 85% of the cases in the circuit courts are triable by jury, and yet you can't get enough. My own view is let's get to the root of the problem. Let's find out why jurors are not turning up. We assume that, for example, they have been summoned and refused to turn up, which might not be true. Are they being served properly? Is there another way in which we can serve them?
Right.
All those conversations and investigations must be carried out because, as Ronnie has said, we have to have a system that functions. If people do not believe that they are living in a just society and that they can attain justice at the courts, we are going to see people taking justice in their own hands. And that is what we do not want.
So the fact is here that the low-hanging fruits out of this, Senator, is addressing especially the stipend that is paid to our jurors and the expenses incurred for maintaining, for actually adhering to your civic duty, because it's a significant sacrifice under normal circumstances in the daily lives of people here, and so I think those are things that can be addressed as we begin to peel away and correct some of the indications that are thwarting people from serving on jury duty.
Well, could I just add one? I ask you, is there any consideration that a jury needs some security protection?
I'd imagine that depends.
I'm asking you, a man that is being tried in a community that is feared by the whole community, and you expect somebody from that community to go to court freely.
Likely that person would be chosen.
Yeah, more than likely.
But I agree that is a situational question, and Pearnel is right in putting it forward. And if in fact there is any such fear, however slight, then the proper provision should be made. But I really would like us to stress the importance of public education. As Donna says, we often talk about it. We spoke about it in relation to freeing up ganja. We speak about it in terms of a registration to vote, NIDS, now jury service. We're not good at public education, and we pay lip service to it, and we need to understand that we are eroding the national cause and in fact encouraging illegality when we do not educate our citizens properly in their rights and responsibilities. Can I get an amen?
And when citizens participate, it strengthens democracy and strengthens their commitment to the country because they are part of the building process. That we cannot overlook.
I'm going to close by saying I think we should also select people, not desperate for a case, but select and train them what they are to expect when they go to court and listen to a presentation of the DPP and Donna representing somebody and prosecuting somebody.
Well, Senator Mottley, we want to say thanks for your participation here today. It's a subject that is of critical importance to us as a people here in Jamaica and even relatives overseas, because justice delayed, of course, is democracy denied. And it's imperative that as part of our civic fabric, that jury duty is part of our responsibility. So we have to find ways now to mitigate and find the solutions going forward. Thank you very much for your participation here.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. It's been nice to spend some time with you all.
All right, great.
Much obliged.
Sure.
Donna Scott Mottley, the opposition spokesperson on justice. Gentlemen,
I think we gotta take a break quickly, Ronnie.
Okay.
Pay some bills and come back. So we, of course, this is a global connect, linking the Bridge 99 FM with Ari Jam in New York. We'll be right back. We welcome you back to the program here that connects every day the public eye to New York and Jamaica. And this is a global connection with Ronnie Thwaites, Pearnel Charles. My name is Erwin Clare, sitting in studios here in Kingston, normally in New York, but on sojourn here. Ronnie, I gather, going back to that jury situation, it's important that some resolve quickly be implemented there because, you know, as I said, justice delayed, democracy denied.
Yeah, well, Ronnie,
it's a very serious issue.
Go ahead, Ronnie.
Well, I'm letting you know the problem is very serious.
Mm-hmm.
The criminal issues are one, but if you have an accident, God forbid, today, and you have to go to litigation in a Supreme Court trial, that is your liability for damages are over, say, $1 million, you're probably going to get a trial date sometime in 2025. Now, that's justice delayed.
Yes.
And there are a variety of other matters that are similarly scheduled. We can do better than that.
Indeed.
We can do better than that. We must. We are not a boogie nation where we spend our substance going to party, entertaining a nice societies or drinking liquor. We must look to the essentials of our nation and prioritize that. And a properly functioning justice system is an essential element. Agreed?
Indeed, indeed.
Ronnie, there's a cultural problem, and I'm saying it to Erwin here, a cultural problem of fear that has overwhelmed the society right now. And there's a cultural problem of money. If a man don't get paid, and you have to spend, as Donna said, days out there coming and going, eating, driving, and don't get paid a year, he's not accepted, right? So we need to look at the cultural fear, the time wasted, and the payment that the payoff and the problem. And I'm speaking because I know.
That is why I made the illusions. I did. We spend money on the wrong things.
Yes.
We spend airtime, we spend educational time on matters that do not go to that cultural change, which will take generations, but which is absolutely necessary in order to have a fulsome life and wholesome social existence.
Ronnie,
yes?
You are in the court, Ronnie. Let me ask you, could we also look at gathering a group of people like we do JPs? Could we expand something of people who are identified, trained as jurors, not necessarily serving their own community, but in several where Supreme Courts are, so that they are not known, they don't know who know them? I mean, could we look at that too?
Well, it's I don't want to go back to a system where you had to be a member of the property class in order to vote and to serve on jury, but it's very important to bring as many people into the settlement of disputes. And one thing I'd like to commend Delroy Chuck for doing is his emphasis on alternative dispute resolution, mediation, arbitration. There's much more that can be done there. But all we're doing is opening up the horizons for justice. And really, that is central to the nation. Erwin Clare, what a pleasure to have you with us.
Indeed.
Come again anytime.
Yes, sir.
Pearnel Charles, always grateful for your wisdom and for your contrariness. And looking forward as we thank all those, Lafayne and Romy and Peter John, who make the bridge possible, and all of our guests today. To next week on the Public Eye on the Bridge 99 FM.
All the best.